Good afternoon. My name is Steve Dettelbach. I'm the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, and we are all here today, this group, to announce a joint state and local and federal law enforcement effort and a law enforcement action that has resulted in the arrest and charging of 32 individuals associated with drug dealing, violence, and illegal firearms possession on the east side of Cleveland and in Euclid. We're here today at the Golden Age Senior Center because we want to send a message jointly. The message is that the community belongs to the people of the Senior Center and the people of the neighborhood who work hard and play by the rules, and not the thugs, not the drug dealers, not the gun toters who are trying to take it from them. Today's action involves 29 individuals who are charged in state court, and Tim McGinty is going to talk about that, and 3 in federal court. So far, of the 29 in state court, my understanding is that 18 are in custody. The rest are currently wanted, and I think we would all share the request that individuals who are named in today's indictment turn themselves in. That's easier for everyone and safer for everyone. One thing I wanted to point out today is the breadth of partnership and effort that resulted in today's law enforcement actions and charges. You have behind us leaders from different branches of government, different levels of government, and different cities. And I don't want to leave anybody out, but I do want to say a special thanks to several of the people who really, more than me, are the ones who made this happen. First, from the city of Cleveland, Mayor Jackson, Chief McGrath, and Safety Director Flask deserve a special thanks for their constant attention to the issues that were raised about the group of people involved in this case. And we're going to hear from Councilman Polensek and Johnson on that issue as well, because they have been raising the call on this. In addition, I want to recognize people from the city of Euclid, and a special recognition to Bill Cervenik, the mayor of Euclid, and Chief Brickman. This is an example of cross-border coordination at its finest. You know, the criminals in this case, they did not know any boundaries, and they didn't stop when they left the city of Cleveland and went into Euclid and back and forth. And so law enforcement doesn't stop either anymore. And today's joint effort is an example of that. And of course, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is one of the leaders of the Northern Ohio Law Enforcement Task Force, whose work again and again and again has protected our community, and we just can't thank them enough for what happened. The facts of this case, I will tell you one thing that I think is important to note, which is that many of the customers who were buying the drugs sold in this case didn't come from this neighborhood. They drove here from the west side. They got off the Interstate 90 and thought that they were just coming into a place where they could score whatever drugs it is that they wanted. And I think people need to understand, who are out in our suburbs, that they're not just coming into a place to score drugs. They're coming into a neighborhood, and they're participating and financing the ruination of that neighborhood. And people need to understand that as a region, these problems are problems that we need to work together to address. They're problems that aren't specific to any one neighborhood. They're problems that span the neighborhoods, and we all bear responsibility for addressing and fixing these issues. I would now like to introduce the person who's going to address next, which is our County Prosecutor, Tim McGinty. I only have 3 defendants. Prosecutor McGinty has 29, so he's really carrying the laboring oar on this, and his office has been fantastic. So, Tim, thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thanks, everybody from the press for being here, and the community, and the residents. So we thank you for allowing us to use your facility today to make this announcement. This is good news. Nothing is lower than a heroin dealer. Heroin is going to cause more deaths in Cuyahoga County this year than gun-related homicides. It is an extremely destructive substance that these dealers are pushing upon our streets, and innocent people suffer as a result. The people charged and arrested here in these cases are the retailers of death and destruction of neighborhoods and families. The harm they have caused is immeasurable. The harm they will cause in the future will be minimized by the great work of this task force and this joint effort between the Cleveland Police, Euclid Police, FBI, and the other agencies who have helped. This is the culmination of some great police work, investigative work that began over a year ago. It takes a great deal of determination by the police to break into these cells that operate in this Lakeshore Gang. This is a moment to be proud for Mayor Jackson, Mayor Cervenik, Councilman Polensik, and Johnson, who have all pushed for these efforts and loudly so to remove these thugs and these heroin dealers from the street. They see the back end of the heroin, the crime that comes with it, the violence that's associated with the dealing, and the degrading of the neighborhood and the people in it. We are all better off when these guys are going to prison, and they are going to prison. That is the goal. Nothing short of that will satisfy us. We want to encourage the neighborhood and the people of the neighborhood's cooperation with the police. It's been very helpful. They have done so. I especially want to thank the bravery of the officers and FBI agents involved here to deal with this gang of violent thugs, and they have exposed themselves to danger in these operations, in making these arrests and buys. And in one of the cases, one of the drug dealers tried to actually escape and was willing to kill the police to do it, rammed them, and these are gun-toting, violent individuals, so we're all better off. I congratulate everyone, and we look forward to gathering the last few and putting them all in prison. Thank you.
Mayor Jackson?
Well, I want to first congratulate the partnership, the law enforcement partnership, on another successful operation. This is just one of many operations that this partnership has been involved in, has resulted in many people going to jail for doing things that are illegal and disruptive in our community. And I want to thank them for that partnership, because, as was mentioned, crime does not stop at a border. What has happened, and also was mentioned, is that parts of Euclid and the Collinwood, Glenville area became a marketplace where people came to buy and sell heroin and crack and all this, and the violence associated with that. And as a result of that activity, that marketplace, it really assisted in destroying quality of life in families and created other kind of criminal activities around that. It was also mentioned that most of the people, many of the people who came to this part of Cleveland and Euclid to purchase drugs did not live here. So the message again is that there are consequences, that you cannot come into Cleveland or Euclid and believe that you can behave the way that they've been behaving and conduct themselves in the way that they've been conducting themselves and think that we're going to tolerate it. So I want to, again, tell how much I appreciate the people who are involved, and as the county prosecutor said, that we're up here making an announcement, but there were individuals who were out on the street doing the work, and it's dangerous work. So I want to especially thank them and tell them how much we appreciate their commitment to our communities.
Mayor?
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. A couple messages were sent today. One, this is regionalism at its best. I know we all talk a lot about regionalism. This is how it needs to be done. We had a press conference similar to this at the Justice Center last month. Same deal. Get these people off the street. To those that are indicted and arrested today, good riddance, don't come back. A message to our residents that was sent today is we do care. We will clean up your neighborhoods, but we need your help. When our residents see something that they don't feel is right in their neighborhood, call the police department. We'll be there. We'll take them out. We'll chase them away. To the men and women and agents that were involved in this dangerous operation today, thank you. We appreciate you putting your lives on the line to keep our residents safe. And last but not least, to those people that think they can come into our neighborhoods and not be held accountable to try and purchase heroin and any other drugs and perpetuate violence, we're coming for you too. Stay in your own neighborhood. Stay out of our town. Find somewhere else to do your business, because it's time that the next time it's going to be you. Thank you all for being here, and again, thanks to all the agencies and all those involved.
Now, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Todd Wickerham.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to recognize the efforts of the partnership we have at the Northern Ohio Law Enforcement Task Force. Every day, 24/7, FBI agents, Cleveland police officers, Euclid police officers, and a whole host of other agencies work together daily, side by side, to work these cases. And that cooperation has led to what has happened today, where we really targeted the most violent individuals dealing heroin out in these communities. Also, I'd like to just recognize the great cooperation between community leaders and the law enforcement agencies standing up here today. And the community leaders and the individuals in the community, they know their neighborhoods best. They know what's right and what's wrong, who belongs and who doesn't. And without that continued cooperation, we wouldn't be able to do these types of cases that we're seeing here today. And then also, if you really look back over the past 6 months in this area and in Cleveland, all these cases and these announcements are all a great result of individuals in the community and community leaders working closely with law enforcement. Thank you.
All right, so speaking of people who know the communities, start with Councilman Palenza.
Thank you, and good afternoon. And I want to personally thank Mayor Jackson, Mayor Cervenik, the police department, both Cleveland and Euclid, U.S. Attorney Steve Dettelbach, FBI, Steve Anthony, and Todd Wickerham, my colleagues, Councilman Kevin Conwell, Councilman Jeff Johnson, and all the folks that have been involved in this process. As you see the chart that's listed here, for 2 years, for 2+ years, those individuals have been on my radar screen in this community. And as we go to the neighborhood meetings and we urge people to participate and turn in information, many of the arrests that took place today were a result of neighborhood residents calling in information and being willing to stand up and be counted. Not hiding, not covering in fear, but saying that we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior anymore in our community. We all know firsthand what this element has done, the people that they have brought in and have sucked in here to try to have a negative effect on our community. We also know the violence and the things that this group has been involved in, the felonious assaults, the shootings, and I could go down a whole list of other issues that they've been involved in. But the bottom line is this, that between the city of Cleveland and the city of Euclid and the Northern Ohio Task Force and everyone else that's been involved in this process, let the message go out loud and clear. We're not taking it anymore. We got a great neighborhood here, and we're working our darndest to make it the best place to be, and we're tired of a small group of individuals constantly throwing roadblocks in our way and constantly creating a problem for reinvestment and for people of goodwill. Let the message go out loud and clear. I think you're hearing that from all the speakers. You want to come into this community, you want to come into Collinwood and Glenville and perpetrate these types of crimes, there's a price to pay. It's either prison or the cemetery. That's unfortunately where they go. They're not winding up on MTV and BET. There's no future for these guys. And the FBI, the Cleveland Police Department, Euclid Police Department, and U.S. Attorney is making it clear there is no future for you to be involved in this type of behavior. So I can't say enough of the partnership here. I want to thank again Mayor Jackson, Safety Director Flash, Chief McGrath from the Cleveland side, and again Mayor Cervenik, the Chief of Euclid, for this joint partnership working with our federal friends to really set the tone, on the northeast side of this county. Thank you.
Right, Councilman Palenza.
Thank you. Let me just say on behalf of the Glenville community, in my 30 years, I have not seen this type of coalition and partnership that has come together from the federal, state, county, as well as local. the very talented individual led by our U.S. Attorney and our County Prosecutor. The context of today is that we do law enforcement, but it doesn't stop there. Our U.S. Attorney and his coalition are also doing prevention. So for the residents here, you got to understand the context of today. We put people away who commit crimes, but we also try to break the cycle. The same U.S. Attorney is helping to provide $1 million over in Mount Pleasant area. So today was our law enforcement. We have to remove violent offenders from our streets so that our folks can have a quality of life. But at the same time, we are fighting to stop the crime and prevent crime. And that's what this coalition continues to do. We have other gangs to go after, but we have other people to stop from going into the life of gangs. So I want to thank all of the folks here on behalf of my residents, because they have reverberated from Lakeshore Boyz all the way into the Glenville community. And we got more to do. Both areas along the way, prevention as well as stopping this crime. So I just want to thank you very much for that.
All right. Just to repeat what Councilman Johnson said, it's so important to understand, I hear Chief McGrath say this over and over, that we're not going to merely arrest our way out of this problem. And while enforcement is very important, we're also doing things, everybody here, on the issue of prevention and reentry. I was with Chief McGrath at a reentry meeting just this morning. So you have, and the one thing, the concrete thing that's coming up, our head of narcotics, Joe Pena, was standing there. Joe, you won't find a more dedicated, harder charging prosecutor in the world than Joe Pena, but he is also helping to spearhead on November 21st a summit at the Cleveland Clinic that talks about ways of prevention with respect to the heroin problem that's out there. And Prosecutor McGinty is deeply involved in that as well. So in addition to things like today, things like the 21st are also very, very important. And I hope that the community and the people in the media not only pay attention to today's actions, but also pay attention to the prevention efforts that are underway as well. So I think we have time for some questions. So if anybody has any questions for anybody.
Yeah, Bob, could you explain a little bit more about the MO of this organization? Where was the source of the heroin coming from? Were they selling mainly from drug houses, on the streets, out of cars?
All right, Joe?
You know, the initial focus of this investigation was the Lakeshore Boyz Gang that really was not only involved in drugs, but a lot of violence. But this case was also directly linked to several of the other big cases. The one that we just had, the 60 federal defendant takedown with the 30 additional in the state, and going all the way back to Operation Northwest Express. A lot of this heroin, believe it or not, was coming into Cleveland from Chicago, and then being distributed not only from the larger dealers that were the ones bringing it in from Chicago, but all the way down to the very street level guys that were selling, in this case, 1/10 of a gram amounts of heroin. And they were operating all up and down Lakeshore. They were on foot, a lot of them. Some of them were in cars and everything in between.
What made 3 of them federal charges?
Yeah, I mean, our offices, Tim and my office, have a very, very comfortable working relationship now. Joe and Deb Naiman over in Tim's office. And literally what happens, not that complicated, is they sit down with all the files of the people, and the FBI is there, and the Cleveland police are there, and the Euclid police are there, and they look at people's records, they look at the amounts of drugs, and they just try to make a decision for each person, because we could do each case in both places. They try to make a decision for each person where the most appropriate place is for that person, be it the penalties, be it the way they're fitting into the bigger case, all those kinds of things. And so there's no one formula to it, but the one thing that is very helpful that we have is, and it didn't exist when we started in these jobs, as prosecutors, those kind of meetings just didn't happen. Now they happen every day, every single day.
Is it safe to say that those are the 3 biggest offenders? Or?
I don't know. I don't want to get into characterizing the evidence in the case. We stick with what's in the public record generally. I'll just say that those are the 3 that both offices decide should be prosecuted in federal court, and the rest that are indicted today, both offices decided should be prosecuted in state court. I don't think it means that one is bigger than the other. It could also relate to how the evidence fits together as to various. Sometimes you want to keep hunks of a case together because the jury will be able to understand it differently. So there's no neat answer to that. I'm sorry.
Could someone talk about maybe the heroin problem in this region has changed recently, the scope of it?
Well, I'm sure every single person up here wants to talk about that. I'll give you one, and then I'll let anybody else who wants to talk about it too. There is a heroin epidemic in our community. And it's resulting in hundreds and hundreds of deaths just in Cuyahoga County alone every year, and thousands of deaths in the Northern District of Ohio, the territory that and it's a tidal wave. And it is coming about as a result of the fact that Mexican cartels are flooding the market with heroin. It's coming about as a result of the fact that as people leave prescription opiates, because we're making it harder to do that, they're looking for some other cheaper way to score their high. And it's coming about because heroin is such an inherently dangerous drug that it kills people in larger numbers than some of the other narcotics, unfortunately. It is a horrible problem, and it requires an all-of-the-above solution. Days like today where we're putting the bad guys away, but also days like November 21st where we're trying to educate people that heroin isn't somebody else's problem. Heroin is every single part of this community's problem. So, Tim, I know you've talked about this a lot.
Well, I mean, we have people totally addicted to heroin. I mean, they can't help themselves. They have to buy. We were interviewing a lady yesterday who she had a surgery, and when her opiate prescription ran out, she obtained more, and she couldn't afford. The example Steve used was similar. She went into prostitution to help pay for opiates, and then heroin was cheaper, so she switched to heroin. So she's a raving heroin addict, and several other prostitutes working with her were in the same situation. And now, you know, they're victims and perpetrators themselves. And there's violence, you know, that go into that trade also related to that. It spreads its tentacles in every direction. It destroys families. These heroin addicted people don't want to be heroin addicted. They have various reasons for going into various problems. They have a great deal of trouble getting off the drug. The treatments are difficult, long, and protracted, and there's not enough places to treat them. And sometimes they go back, and oftentimes they go back. Most of the time they end up going back. And when they go back, this isn't like dealing with a regular pharmaceutical company that has controlled quality substances. They put out various quantities, and many of these deaths are overdose deaths that people were trying to get off. They come back using the heroin again, they're dead. These are innocent deaths. And you think these drug dealers care? Do you think they care for one moment? No. They've got steady customers, they've got steady supply chains, they've got steady supplies being taken in from Mexico through various sources, or retailing now through Chicago to here. All they care about is the money flow and keep it going. And the destruction it causes to families and neighborhoods is enormous. It's tremendous. You know, just talking to the prostitutes yesterday, looking at them, or I'm reading the reports, and they've all got families. They're losing their families, and it affects everybody. Their mothers end up raising the kids when they go away or they go for treatment, and they get beaten by the people who are retailing them, the pimps, and the pimps use the heroin to some of the purchasers are these human traffickers. They use it to addict the women they have enticed to work for them, to keep them there and to keep them enslaved, in essence. So it's an awful, it branches out into different crimes they commit. It attacks the fabric of the community in so many ways. And these guys are the retailers of this destruction and death. The bigger guys, they were last month, the huge importers. That was last month's press conference. This is the retail end.
Any other questions?
Do you feel like you're making any meaningful headway on this problem?
Do I feel like...
We've had multiple events like this with dozens of arrests. I mean, do you feel like you're making any inroads? Maybe not saying you turned the corner, but are you making any
Right.
progress?
You know, look, do we feel like we're making headway? Yes. I do feel like we're making headway. But nobody up here, you know, is going to tell you a story about how we're ending the heroin problem in Cuyahoga County or Northern Ohio. So yes, I do think we're making headway. I do think we're doing a better job than ever, you know, the FBI and the police departments of targeting strategically the people who should be targeted. But I have no doubt that this group will be up here again at some point in the future talking about another group of people that we are having to take off the streets as well.
Tim, I think the county coroner, you mentioned earlier there'll be more deaths in Idaho County this year from heroin overdoses and gun violence. Is that the first year that's still going to happen?
Did I say that? I think that's true. I don't know if I said it though, but I think it is true. And I don't know. I'd have to look at last year's numbers.
It was close. It's
Last year's
declining
close.
Each year steadily. It's
Yeah, I mean, so the homicide number, has actually been going down, and the heroin addiction death number has been going up, and I don't know what year the lines crossed, but, the object is to uncross them again, and get those numbers down.
And then I know you can't give up details of the investigation. I do after the school level. There's today 32 of them, but a couple of times Chicago has come up as a source of the pipeline. Any joint investigations to try and get to that root?
Almost every case we do on the federal level in partnership with state and local partners, we do working with DEA, FBI, ATF agents in different cities. So nearly every case that we do, that's one of the things we bring to the table on the federal side, and Todd can talk about it.
In the last takedown that we announced a few weeks ago with the 60 federally charged, intelligence that we developed here as part of our case led to a multi-kilo heroin seizure in Chicago. And we're constantly sharing intelligence back and forth that helps us not only target what's coming in, but when we gather it here, we send it back to where it came from, just as a consistent effort between our agencies, FBI, DEA, all these agencies that work this, to continue to target these groups who, the cartels, eventually that it works back to, to work against this problem.
Most of these people,
Yes, go ahead.
Again, how long were these guys under investigation and how many of them are in custody?
Okay, approximately a year-long investigation of these individuals, and right now there's 18 of the 29 state-charged individuals are in custody, and then all 3 federal are in custody.
and were most of them part of the Lakeshore Boyz Gang, or?
Yes,
Most of them were?
yes.
All right. Okay, so I think that's it. There'll be people obviously remaining to answer individual questions. So thank you very much, and thank you again to everybody for your work. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.